This is a call for men to go against the grain of culture and society. I don't think men have any idea how precious this time is that we have on this earth. And I don't think modern men have any idea that they're about to get bitch slapped by society and by reality in general. It's time that we, as men, get our feelings together. Now, as a person that was once, at least had a temperament of what I would consider to be feminine now, but then I didn't consider it to be a feminine mindset or a temperament. I thought of myself as just being a compassionate person. Now, I'm not saying that it is not our place, men, to not be compassionate or to not have compassion. In fact, that is one of the most quality things that anybody could have, and it is, in fact, a characteristic of the king archetype. Now, if anybody that has read the King, Warrior, Magician, and Lover book that is based off of the 4 archetypes of the mature masculine psychology, this would be very helpful for you. And you will also already know about this, but anybody that has not read the book, I highly recommend it for this reason, because it helps us understand that there are certain kind of characters, you could say, to our unconscious mind. And in this unconscious mind of ours are representations and manifestations of certain kind of archetypes, such as the king, warrior, magician, or lover. Now, there are obviously more archetypes to be talked about, but what I really want to get at in this video is to send a message that men, we need to stop putting, how do I say this on YouTube without it being overtly explicit? We need to stop putting our phallus in those pink palaces that are giving anybody free access to the pink palace. In other words, we need to stop chasing after these harlots. It is so counterintuitive to me to see these men. Like, I was playing basketball the other day at the gym, and where I go to the gym at, there's a big window on the other side of the court, and I mean where you enter into the court anyway, and you can see the people that are walking into the weight room. And I was playing with this guy, and well, there were several of us. We were doing 3-on-3, and one of the guys there was just drooling at any woman that walked by, just any woman, and like he just stopped playing altogether. And I was trying to pass him the ball, and he was just, like, brother, what are you doing, man? Like, get your head in the game. I know this is just pickup, but come on, let's go. And he was just sitting there, just drooling over every single girl. And it was like he literally had no control over his flesh. And it was astounding to witness that this man literally had no control over his emotions. Now, this was a man that I would say has not developed his king archetype, nor his warrior archetype, and especially not his lover archetype. Now, in the book, there's a lot of topics on how you can mature in these archetypes, and what starts out at certain archetypes, like you have the high chair tyrant, or you have like the insolent lover, for example, or you have certain like pendulums that balance out into the maturation of the actual archetype. But there's like shadow versions of each archetype, and then there's also greater, more positive aspects of the archetype in its maturation. but there's also weaker spots. So there's like the weak king that can't really hold up anything to anybody. It reminds me of, if anybody's seen The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, I think it's called. I think it's called The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. But the emperor in there, he is supposed to be the leader of Japan, and he's supposed to be making all of these big decisions. And he's faced basically with a mafia that is taking control of Japan, and he's destroying the old samurai warriors for no reason other than to get rid of what is old and to destroy what is old. And he just, like, the emperor is just so weak that he just kind of bow downs to this mafia general type guy. And by the end of the movie, he finally regains, spoiler alert, I guess, he finally regains a sense of strength and honor, and he realizes that, no, we must remember where our roots are. We must remember how the warriors in us are to fight, to be a warrior is something more than just to fight. It's about discipline. It's about reflexes. It's about understanding that you are, like, if you're going into whatever you're going into, if you are going to die, you have to have the mindset of, so it must be and so it will be. But either way, I'm going to fight. And so each of these different kinds of archetypes are so important for men to cultivate. And one of the biggest reasons I think we have such a terrible, not even, what would you say? We have such terrible examples of masculinity now, generally speaking. There are, of course, very few that we can admire and respect. I don't want to idolize anybody, but we can admire and respect some, and thank God for that. But it's become ever so clear to me that over the years, when I had that feminine temperament, what I was really doing was demasculating myself and emasculating myself, really. I was not the kind of person that was capable of standing up for his own beliefs. I was not the kind of person to say what was on his mind and to speak his piece if the moment required it. And it took a lot of exposure to even start talking to women more in person. And now I have no trouble with it. But before, like 4 years ago, oh my gosh, like it was easier to go on a dating app, right? And I think that's one of the things that men and women have such a hard time with now, is it's just easier to go on a dating app than to meet somebody and actually talk to them in person. It's almost like we forgot how to socialize, even though part of the social media is supposed to help us socialize. Now, there are fantastic tools like YouTube, for example, that gives us the opportunity to touch consciousness collectively across states, across countries, and across the world. And that is a beautiful thing, and that is something that is to be cherished and praise God for. With that being said, it is also very concerning to me to see so many men that do not have control over themselves. And so, in this example of the guy that was drooling over women, I didn't say anything to him specifically, but it was just, it made it ever so more clear to me that I have to make some kind of difference in the world that is in response to everything that is happening in light of these situations. And so men that complain about the women, the promiscuous women, and yet still stick their phallus in that pink palace, are part of the fucking problem. They are part of the issue. They are part of the issue with society. How it is like in the Bible when everybody's casting the stones at the woman, and the Pharisees are casting the stones at the woman, and Jesus goes to stop them, and he protects the woman. And basically what happens from then is that he sees, obviously, that, you know, there are people in the crowd that are stoning the woman that has actually slept with her, or that has actually been with her. And so basically they're a bunch of hypocrites. And so that's one of the reasons why whenever I see that someone's behavior is demonstrating that they are actually not who they say they are, I immediately cut them off. I have no issue with that now. Whereas 4 years ago, I would have had a hard time, because when you get to the point to where you're turning down more women than most other men are getting, that's when you know you've reached godlike savage mode. And it's not about like getting more women. Now, of course, that's a fantastic place to be in, where you have the opportunity to choose. But for me, in my situation, it's that I have very high standards now. I have very high expectations for myself and myself only. And I'm not going to ask of any expectations for anybody else. But what I'm going to do is make sure that if they do not meet my standards, if these women do not meet my standards, they're going to be placed into one of 2 or 3 categories. Number 1 is nothing at all. 2 is a concubine, which is essentially someone that I would never consider seriously, but maybe I would consider some kind of sexual relationship, granted that there is some kind of demonstration and potential for her to grow and to humble herself, to be humbled, and to recognize that she's not wife material, really. And, you know, that's kind of what a concubine is that it's there's no shame or disrespect in the position of a concubine. And there are many examples of concubines in the Bible. And what a concubine is basically is a part-time wife. That is the best way to think about it. A concubine is a part-time wife that doesn't have the status of wife, but can be considered as a girlfriend. And just for the note of it, I do support polygyny, even though I'm not a practicing polygynist right now. And polygyny and polygamy and polyamory are very different things. Polygyny is where the men have multiple women. Polyamory is where the women have multiple men, which I find absolutely disgusting, and I do not ever want to be with a woman that is dealing with multiple men or that is talking to multiple men at one time, because I don't think it's healthy at all. And then you have polyamory, which is, polygamy, which is, and it's basically a free-for-all. And so I don't think that is going to be very helpful either. But in the society, it is growing ever more to the realization that these are the 3 different categories I must place a woman in, which the third is some kind of long-term relationship material. I do not plan to get married in this society that we live in currently. I've talked about this in previous videos, and the reason being is just because of the government and how whenever anybody gets married nowadays, the government is going to be the one that is the head of the household. It is not going to be the man or the woman, for that matter. So, and men have 0 reproductive rights. Whenever there are any kind of possibilities of those changing, then maybe I'll consider it. But I also want to talk about a Bible verse from Ecclesiastes 7:25 through 29. And it says, I applied mine heart to know, and to search, and to seek out wisdom, and the reason of things, and to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find on the account, which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those have I not found. Lo, this only have I found, that God hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. So, in the time that Ecclesiastes was written, which was thousands of years ago, when the preacher went out to see who was righteous, he found one man among 1,000 that was righteous, and they didn't find any women that were righteous. Now, what exactly does that mean? What does that really say? It means that women are highly emotional creatures, and that will never change. That is their biology, that is their psychology, and as men, it is our duty, our sacred duty, to provide leadership and direction to women. Else, the woman without leadership will head for destruction. That is the essence of why I believe polygyny to be acceptable, whereas any kind of woman that wants multiple men I deem unacceptable as society stands. Now, of course, I'll have people that disagree with me, and that's all fine and dandy. But I also want to bring up a passage from Isaiah. It's Isaiah 4:1, I believe. And basically what this passage is talking about is the daughters of Zion, and I want to say that this is another reason why I think one man is capable of having multiple women. In fact, it's man's biblical right to have multiple women. Now, I'm not saying that, like you have to do this. Like if you don't want multiple women, that's totally fine. That's your prerogative. And if you do want multiple women, and if you are interested in a woman and she wants to be exclusive with you or whatever, and you say, well, I'm actually dealing with multiple women, and what do you bring to the table to ensure that my exclusivity with you would be beneficial for me? If you're completely honest and straight to the point like that, I don't see any problem with it. And I don't see any problem with being totally transparent with women up front, saying, yeah, I'm dealing with multiple women. It is what it is. And yeah, I don't want you dealing with multiple men. Now, of course, in the modern day times, they're going to say, that's sexist, that's misogynist, that's chauvinist. Well, let them think that. And if they do think that, then move on. Who cares? There are plenty of other women out there that are ready to share a high-value man that is capable, confident, that has the financial resources, and that is understanding of biblical scripture and traditional values in the Bible. So, Isaiah 4:1, it says, "And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread, we will wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name, to take away our reproach." So, even in Isaiah's time, he prophesied that there would be women, and there was, multiple women that wanted to be with one man. And the reason for this was because of his righteousness, his godlike qualities. Now, I'm not saying he was God. He was just like this man, whoever he was, or whatever they were, those kinds of men. They were not gods, but they were godlike. And so that is why also the guard dogs the men that are real guard dogs, that are focused, that are determined, those are going to be the ones that are going to be revealed in our society, not by their words, but by their actions. And this is why it's so important for you to get your shit together, men. And I'm not saying that you need to have it all, because nobody has it all. I don't have it all. Not even Elon Musk has it all. And he's the richest person on the planet. And yet, what I'm striving to do for you men at this time is to let you know that we don't have to say and do what society is telling us to do and say. In fact, it is part of our masculinity to be a little bit undomesticated. If you become domesticated, you become not a lion anymore. You don't have the heart of a lion anymore. You have like the heart of like a baby pug. You know, that's not going to get you where you need to go. It's just not. So, with all sincerity, go against the grain and challenge societal conventions that are no longer reputable, no longer, what would you say, no longer responsive to our needs either. It's time that we take back what is ours. It's time that the chosen ones take back what is theirs. Reclaim your right to live your life. With that being said, peace and blessings to you all. Till next time.